Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Steve Stuckey for the PSD EdTech Coaches podcast number 9. And in the honor of practicing social distancing, Dan is not able to be in the studio, but we have connected up with him actually via Zoom, a Zoom meeting. I'm watching him live on the iPad like we're sitting in the room, and rather than just a phone call. Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Hey, everything's going great. I'm trying to practice that social distancing. So I have my family in another room, myself in my office, and ready to get started.
I know when I started recording today, my wife gave me a look that says, I need to be social distancing. Absolutely. So we have a lot probably to talk about here today as far as what's going on in Palmdale and Palmdale School District and our teachers, but it could have some application worldwide as well.
Absolutely. And so for those of you that might have listened to the board meeting, they broadcasted it over Zoom as well. They also recorded it to YouTube, so you can actually go onto their YouTube channel and listen to the announcements that Raul Maldonado made. But basically what he said was that teachers, there's no requirement that you have to go to your site. You can do your job from your office or your house. And how that looks as far as checking in, as far as what your responsibilities are going to be, that one's still up in the air. I guess they're still working on that.
Yeah, I don't think that we have anything new to share. And I know a lot of teachers, their big concern is what we need to know what's going on. There's a lot of anxiety going on with teachers, well, because they care. They care about their kids. They care about their job and doing a great job. But I think it's important that we sort of not trickle out the information. That the information comes at one time.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because it seems like when things trickle is when things change. And I think trying to get a concise, as much as possible, plan out is really their goal. And I think that's what they're really trying to do. And I understand from the teacher point of view, we're habits, we're creatures of routine. And trying to find what that routine now is the difficult part. So one of the things I would suggest also is start getting connected with your students some way, somehow.
And I know this is coming late at the end of our spring break, and connecting might not be first and foremost on your mind, but you might want to consider doing that. Dan, you're right. Connect with them either if it's snail mail and you need to send a letter with some Google codes, if they already use Flipgrid, and put that link in Google Classroom and check in with them. There are numerous ways that we'll discuss a little bit later, I guess, how students can connect up with their teachers.
Yeah, and those students need you. I know it seems like, they're at home, they've got their parents, but a lot of their parents are still working. They're used to you during the day, and so really connecting to them is really a big deal.
Speaking of also connecting, I believe our district has put together a hotline if you have any tech issues or problems, with a number, and that number will be coming out to you guys soon, so you can call them direct and deal with any of those virtual and troubleshooting things that you might have. Some teachers have asked, hey, I need a computer. What do you suggest, Mac or PC? And I said, you know what? Call the tech department, see what they have. I know, and I don't know if it's still active, but we had a Dell employee purchase program with Dell that might help out in case you need to buy one of those new fancy computers.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit later about, will what we have work? But don't stress about having to buy something. Let's see how things roll out over the next week or so.
Absolutely. District will have some expectations for us. They are our employers, and they will have some things that we need to abide by. It might be, type and length of lessons, but all that information should be coming out. I think it's important for us as teachers to remember that we need to just emphasize the feedback on things that we give them digitally or even if it's a work packet and they bring it back, provide feedback, not grades.
And I had a conversation with some teachers last night, and one of the questions they asked was, how do I, am I going to be having to worry about report cards now that progress report is ended? And I said, you know what? Don't even think about that. Think more about, how can I nurture the student with feedback, with improving their school and their knowledge, and not necessarily about, I got to get the grade in, because the grade really isn't that important right now, because in the scheme of all of what we're looking at right now.
And if you're not used to providing that kind of feedback digitally, some people suggested keep it simple for yourself. Give them those multiple choice true and false. And I say this is your opportunity right now to use some of those higher level questioning techniques, learn how to get those out to the kids, provide that feedback where a grade doesn't matter, but the thinking does.
Yeah, the thinking is always the most important part. The grade is the finality of it, but we want our kids thinking. And now's a great time to be practicing what the district has been trying to push with those level 2, level 3, level 4 questions. Really get those out to those students, really allow them to develop answers.
And so that kind of leads us into, what does an online, remote, or blended classroom look like? What does the learning look like? So I think it's important then to make sure teachers understand the difference between two words. We brought it up, I think, a couple podcasts ago, the difference between synchronous learning and asynchronous learning.
So keep in mind that synchronous learning is what you would do every day. When you are in your classroom, you are, as a group, synchronously learning or teaching with your kids.
And that's not going to be happening now, is it? Well, you can do it, but I don't think that might be the most viable way to help kids learn. I don't think it's fair to them to think that everybody should be online on the same page at the same time, synchronously.
Yeah, don't bet that you're going to get all your kids all at once. Again, it goes back to the parents still having to work, still has to go with parents having to take care of other kids, devices,
internet connection, you name
Absolutely.
it. So I think it's more important then that you learn how to set up asynchronous types of teaching.
So asynchronous would be the idea that you record your lesson and you put it out there, and the students get to watch it at their leisure. And I know that's a hard part, is the leisure part, but we have to kind of be flexible right now with how our kids are consuming information.
And, they're used to asynchronous learning. They go look it up on Google, or they look it up on YouTube, and they learn things just the same way I learned to fix my water heater. It wasn't, I didn't call the plumber and say, come teach me how to fix my water heater. I looked it up asynchronously at my own time. Well, it wasn't my leisure. I needed it done now, but it was a water heater.
Right.
And
that's the thing. You access the information when you needed it. And that's exactly what we want our kids to do right now.
So keep that in mind then, that your blended learning or your remote learning will involve some of the synchronous opportunities for kids, but I wouldn't make that too academic. I would make the synchronous part more of a check-in. How you guys doing? Do you have any questions? It could even be a fun activity. I've gotten emails back from teachers who are saying that we're doing some fun things together, even charades on Zoom at one point with their kids in their classroom.
That's awesome. I know on Facebook, I had done an activity called Stories with Holes, where kids could ask questions, trying to solve, but it was just a fun activity. It was we did get the higher level thinking, but really it was a fun activity just to kind of check in to see where my friends' kids were. So don't make it too hard. Make it easy on yourself.
And practice using these tools like Zoom with your kids in a fun way that you don't have to feel too stressed out about the technology and an academic portion together. Have fun with it.
Absolutely. And I know that brings up a lot of questions that you guys have had over the last week or two now. We've been fielding these questions through Flipgrid, through email, through Facebook, and we've sort of compiled a small, kind of an FAQ on how we can better answer these. So, because I'm sure if a few are asking them, there's probably more that have the same questions.
So one of the questions that was asked is my school iPad sufficient technology to do the online teaching?
So we kind of mentioned this earlier about going out and buying new devices. As of right now, yeah, your iPad's going to be wonderful. Um, don't think you have to go out and go buy something, but your iPad can do just about anything you want it to do. But I know, Steve, we've talked, and you've got a really good analogy for that.
Well, I think it's kind of like being a carpenter and, picking the right tool. I can do some work with a razor blade or a chisel, and one of them will work better, faster, more efficiently for me. That would be using the chisel versus the razor blade. I can get them both done. So sometimes there's great uses for iPads. They have their lane, and then there's a lane for your computer as well. But to get started, don't think you have to go out and buy something. Although I'm talking here with Dan, and it's like, oh, I can buy something new, some new technology. I'm already considering it.
Yeah, it's very easy to make those considerations, but really, hold off on buying anything. Let's see what comes down first.
Right.
I know another one of the concerns was that some of the teachers want better communication from admin. Um, how can that be a little bit better? And we touched on that a little bit earlier.
Right. For sure, there's going to be information coming out, but they're building this plane as it's flying right now as well, and I think it's best to get all the information out at one time. Let it go, and we're off and running, rather than letting it just trickle down.
Awesome. Another question was about district expectations, and then as of the recording of this podcast, the district is still meeting, forming that, trying to figure out really what this best looks like. So hang on with the district expectations. The only district expectation we can guarantee is that we're going to be doing stuff online.
Yeah, don't be anxious about it. I know that's easy to say, harder to practice, but don't worry so much about it. There will be trainings available. You have your tech coaches that you can contact, that we can meet up. It's not like it hasn't been happening for 2 weeks already, huh, Dan? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think there's been a day that has gone by in which we're not connecting up with Zoom or Google Meet with a teacher to show them some things to help them get ready.
Absolutely. I was sharing with Steve yesterday about I had gotten a text and then I got a phone call from a teacher, and my wife says, "It's your spring break. What are you doing?" And I said, "It's a different spring break. It's just the time is different this year, and again, it's about the flexibility. It really is. Now is a great time. All those memes we see on social media where it says, keep calm and fill in the blank. That's kind of where we need to be right now. It's kind of keep calm and we'll do whatever we need to do to get things done."
We've said it before, small steps, do one little thing at a time, try it, see how it works, and then start adding some things on once your kids are used to this online environment.
Completely agree. Hey, Steve, will students have access to their email?
That's a great question, because teachers want to be able to, and email for students is turned off in the district, and the plan currently is not to turn it on. So teachers want to know, are there any specific platforms or programs? Teachers don't want to see their inbox jammed up. Well, remember, first you have the time, start archiving all those old emails so you don't have 10,000 emails in your inbox. That will help you out. I think I got down to 3 as of last night, to 3 emails
Nice.
in my inbox. But there's a lot of things that teachers use. Remind, we have that as a district program. Time to revisit that maybe. On our website, palmdalesd.org/edtech, there is a link for remote learning resources, and down at the bottom there is a button for ClassLink that you can click on to help you remember Remind, to help you use that. There is one for ClassLink as well, but ClassLink has nothing to do with this communication business. Google Classroom, for sure. You can open up the ability for kids to comment or ask questions. You can mute those kids who aren't doing it appropriately and thinking that this is going to be social media time, which it is not.
And make sure also with Google Classroom that you set the boundaries with your students. Hopefully that's already happened in your classroom, but some of you may not have used Google Classroom yet. set those boundaries with your students.
So that become part of our basic trainings next week for sure on those settings, the important ones. I think the biggest deal is for you to make a Google form that becomes your question box. How send it out, put it in Google Classroom, send out the link in Remind or Class Dojo, and then they can fill out the form and ask you the questions that they have.
I think those are all great choices that the teachers can make. And again, if you're not sure, you don't remember, reach out to one of us. We'd be happy to, Skype in or Zoom in or Google Meet in or whatever, however you want to do it. We'd be more than happy to sit down with you and figure it out.
Right. So another question is, what will my class time look like?
That's a great question.
We're so used to, period 1, period 2, or this is language arts time, this is my math time. How does it look in the world today? Well, do I take attendance? Do we meet all together? We've kind of talked about meeting all together, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous.
Whatever the expectations turn out to be, what I can guarantee is that it's going to be different. I'm going to say it again. This has sort of been the key word through this entire thing is fluid and flexible. And, once all the expectations come out, and you meet with your site leaders and you guys figure out what everything's going to look like, you'll create your own routine and you'll get back into what it feels like to be in the classroom a little bit. But relax. It really is. Keep calm, and you'll find your way. You really will.
It will be different. It will be messy. Allow for that. Don't set your expectations too high. Expect to fail at times and learn from that. And that's probably one of the greatest examples that we can give for our students is that we can fail at things and we learn from them and we fix it. The same teacher. Well, go ahead.
I would say, and I know one of the concerns also is with kindergarten, which is probably where you're heading next. Keep in mind, we don't know what those expectations look like. We don't know what devices will be coming out. So just for those of you in TK and kinder, maybe even first grade, kind of wait and see where everything's going once we get the message from admin.
And to help keep that communication with those parents, with those kindergarten, any of our students. Remember, you can give them your email address and they can email you. You just can't email them. But you can email a parent. So if a parent gives you their email address, there's no reason why you couldn't email the parent with an attachment or some of the assignments and so on. Teacher asks, what about student IDs? Am I allowed to give the number to the parents or their guardians?
Please. Just make sure that you're giving it to the parent or the guardian. Remember, you can look for that in Infinite Campus. I know, especially for first grade, second grade, they know their password because that to them is real easy because they live their password. But it's the username. So remember, it's going to be that user number, the was it 8-digit number with their at palmdelesd.org. That's what it's going to get at. And then for most of our students, it's going to be their birth date as their password. So, if you can contact the parents, if they're asking for it, just confirm and I see it is who it is. And I think you'll be good to go to give those out.
And then the same idea that teachers want the kids to be able to log into ClassLink and all that information is important for it. How to connect up a student's Google account so they can do a quicker pass through is also on our website, palmdelesd.org/edtech. Just click on the ClassLink button.
Newly redesigned palmdelesd.org/edtech.
It's not like we didn't have hours to work on that.
So we had gotten a question about using Google Classroom on student gaming systems. You had shared a Facebook post, which, by the way, has reached almost 31,000 views to this point. About that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. So PS4 and Xbox, is it Xbox Live? Is that what it's called? I'm not a gamer.
Yeah, Xbox would work. Yeah.
They have the ability to download a browser, and kids can access their internet online with that browser, access Google Classroom, Docs, and all of that kind of business. But to do it, I don't have the link. It's buried somewhere in that Facebook. But you can Google it, go to YouTube, and type it in, do that search.
And I'll probably be doing a video on how to do that. I'll have my sons help me since they've got nothing else to do right now, right? They've got all their schoolwork done.
Yeah.
I'll have them help me record how to do that live, and that way you can kind of see what that looks like. It'll only be on an Xbox because I'm still a teacher and can only afford one of them. But we'll make sure that you guys can at least see from an Xbox point of view what that looks like.
All right. So from gaming to, I've purchased some online access to different programs. I know one was called education.com, provide printables that you can print up for your class. And it also has some online ability for kids to be able to do some of those worksheets online. Can a teacher use it?
Be very careful because we still have our district approval process for any of our online stuff that we do. You can find that online on the palmdalesd.org website. Just make sure that it's district approved. I would be very careful right now doing stuff like Teacher Pay Teacher or any one of the free sites just until we find out what exactly we're looking at for the next few weeks.
Yeah, just because we're at home doesn't mean that we need to throw the idea of ignoring student privacy. Student privacy is still very important, and unless they have declared that they are going to protect our kids' privacy, we will not ever approve it. Now, I mentioned education.com. I don't know one way or another whether it's approved. I think that needs to be looked up on the district or called through our district EdTech department.
And remember that our students also still have access to all their online stuff. They have access to Benchmark. They have access to Study Sync and anything else that they've had in their school. They have it at home as well. So they just need to have access to it.
So a lot of questions. I'm sure there's going to be even more after you listen to this, and we love to hear them. And if we know the answers, we will share at the time that is appropriate. But a lot of teachers want to go, well, how do I know if they're learning? I mean, I'm not there in the classroom. I'm not asking those questions that let me see that they get it right now. What are some ways?
So Edu protocols, if you haven't checked them out, now is a great time to really take a look at the Edu protocols. One of them is Fast and the Curious. What I like about the Fast and the Curious is it's a quiz. It's a quick teaching, and then it's a quiz at the end. And you repeat that until you get mastery. Now is a great time to find a specific subject. Don't go broad. So when you're doing this, don't do something like how to, or
how about let's learn all about the American Revolution.
Yeah, don't make it very broad. Make it very specific, like the Boston Tea Party. Ask what the students know with the pre-quiz. Give them content to learn, and then ask a post-quiz. See what they've learned. See what they need more of. Give another video or more instruction on it, and then repeat the process.
I'm sure that a lot of teachers are going to have part of their requirements, if we can even call them requirements, but they want kids to continue to read. And how can we monitor whether or not they read? And I think Edu Protocols has a great little activity called Book a Kucha.
I love that one because it's adaptable to whatever the teacher wants to do. We can go into more detail about these, but really the best thing to do is to buy, there's two books, Edu Protocols Field Guide number 1 and Guide number 2. The website, eduprotocols.com, where they have templates. But really check out, the Buka Kucha and the Fast and the Curious, and really see how it really will work well with your classroom.
What I'll probably do, and maybe some of the other ed tech coaches, we will have available office hours, but we may put up other webinar opportunities where you can all jump in, and a topic might be Edu Protocols and how to do Buka Kucha. I can never pronounce it right. Things like that are different than here's how we use Zoom or how we do Screencastify to record lessons. We will actually start working on things that are ways for kids to learn content and actually have some fun doing it.
Yeah, I know I've seen a lot of kids loving the Buka Kucha. So yeah, definitely one of those Edu Protocols. This will be a great time to start implementing those.
Right. So you can assign something like a TED Talk for the kids, an age-appropriate TED Talk, and then in Google Classroom, include a form with questions about it. So then you can see whether or not they've watched it, number one, have thought about it, and have responded, and provide that feedback as well.
A great way of getting those higher level thinking questions in without really making it a large activity that they've got to work through. Watch a video, ask them those critical thinking questions.
Short and sweet.
Exactly.
So what about this meeting with kids online?
Be really careful. We're going to talk. I'm going to be doing the training next week on Google Meet and on Zoom. We'll go more into detail about the etiquette. The district will have guidelines on what that etiquette looks like. But bottom line is protect yourself. Don't leave yourself open for sort of like don't use the closed door policy. In other words, in our classrooms, we'd never meet with a student one-on-one with the door closed. We keep it open. We kind of want to have that same mindset with the online meetings.
Yeah, a lot of times when people are online, they think they're anonymous. And even if it's a video chat, they think they're anonymous, but they're not.
Exactly. And setting, again, I talked about it with Google Classroom, setting the guidelines for the online meetings is going to be crucial. And like I said, we'll talk about it more next week. But for now, if you're going to meet with your students, make sure you have parent permission. Make sure and even invite the parent in if you would like to, just so that way they know what's going on and what you're saying. And you really just need to make sure you're covering yourself.
So in the world of teaching and PLCs and collaboration, teachers have often struggled generally over time of what I call getting off the island. They tend to close themselves into their classroom. They do what they do, and it's hard to share. But at this time now, it's probably more important that we learn to collaborate with each other. And it may not be as hard as people think it is. How do I collaborate with someone when they're living in Santa Clarita and I live in Lancaster, and we need to put together things for our kids? So I think EdTech is the life raft that helps you get off the island and connect with one another like never before, anywhere on the planet.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of become the life preserver that we've been trying to really connect each other using the technology to really bring each other together. So, you may do something simple like creating a shared doc or a spreadsheet, something really simple like that.
Where you can start putting down plans and ideas, schedules for each other. All that is Google Classroom. So one of the things I've started to encourage teachers to do is to what I call create a fake Google Classroom, where you make everybody a teacher in the classroom. And then within that classroom, each teacher creates their lessons, but the others can then reuse the posts from the fake classroom into their classroom for their kids. And so now you are all contributing to the stockpile of lessons across different subjects. I think we said one of the greatest things we could do is not think that I have to teach and design lessons at this time for every single subject. This is for elementary, of course. Junior high, you guys are lucky. You can create a lesson and probably have it cover 4 or 5 periods, or 7 if that's the only thing you teach. But it allows you then to focus in on something and spend less time worrying about all the other things.
Yeah, so maybe each one of you takes a subject. So teacher number 1 takes science, teacher number 2 takes math, teacher number 3 takes ELA, and teacher number 4, if you have a 4th member, takes social studies. And each one of those teachers develops for that subject. Use that common Google Classroom to create the assignments. And then in your individual classes, you just repost from that group of assignments. I think that's an awesome idea.
Other ways to collaborate, you can use Google Meet or Zoom, either one of those, because you might as well practice with your own colleagues before you put it out there to the kids anyway. And then when you do that meeting, invite one of your EdTech coaches in. We can virtually be there to help guide you, answer any questions. We've all been in the classroom, so we have some of the teaching pedagogy down. and a pretty good understanding then of how we can deliver this online.
And we can just listen in if you just want us there just to kind of listen how things are going, and then when we need us, have us offer ideas on how you can smooth things out. We'd be more than happy to do that.
I know for a fact a lot of teachers are out there Googling things, out on social media, finding great ideas, because social media's been inundated with teaching ideas. Share those ideas, steal those ideas, give them to each other, and think about what you can use.
And if you're not developing your professional learning network or your PLN, now is a great time to do that. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they all have stuff going on right now where teachers are just sharing left and right. I mean, there's so much content coming across. It's insane.
Yeah, I've even seen where people who do things with ed tech for a living and sell themselves in the product are giving away things for free.
Yeah, I think it's just a great idea.
If you've never made a Google site, it's really simple and easy. We're going to have some beginner classes on that next week, or contact one of your coaches. Create a single one-page place where you can have teachers collaborate with each other. It doesn't have to be open to the public.
Yeah, and it's a great way also that when you want to, you can also make it a bit, certain pages part of that site available to students. You don't have to have the whole site available to students. But the bottom line is, and you said it earlier, keep it simple.
You have to keep it simple. Otherwise, it's overwhelming to think about it, and that's where the anxiety starts, that I have so much I have to do. I don't know how to do all of this, ed tech stuff, online, remote teaching. Take a breath. Keep it simple.
And yesterday I got an email asking for, a teacher was kind of freaking out a little bit, and they're like, Dan, do you have any words of wisdom that's happening? And what can I look forward to? What's this going to look like? And so Steve and I came up with some words of wisdom that you might want to think about as we head into next week.
Well, we actually got shared an article by someone, and don't be turned off by maybe some of you will be excited about the title of this article, called "Please Do a Bad Job of Putting Your Courses Online." It was really geared towards more of the college students, but there are some things here that we can draw from. We've been asked in a lot of cases, our colleagues across the country, to put some or a lot of the remainder of the schoolwork online. And the author says now's the time to do a poor job of it. Because if you think that you are building a class online, you're not. You are not teaching students who can be expected to be ready to learn online, and probably your class is not their highest priority at this moment. So a lot of us want to think about the pedagogy of teaching online, and you're looking and you're gathering all these tools, you're doing research for the last couple of weeks. Stop, take that breath.
And so there's a couple of things that you want to remember as you're moving online. The first thing is, your students probably know less about technology than you think. Many of them probably know less than you do. So, yeah, I know we say it all the time, they're digital natives. But remember, they're younger than you. You've had a little bit more experience in all of this.
And when we say digital natives, they maybe know how to access their social media really well, but how to use that, using digital tools to create and work is a different thing.
Absolutely. And, most likely, unless the district comes up with, and they might over the next 12 hours from where we're recording this right now, a lot of them will be using cell phones to access the internet for their content. They may have limited data. So keep in mind that they may be reserving that for other things, like getting a hold of other people and their families. Don't think that they are dedicated to you during that time that you have them.
And never before have we required anybody in our district in their homes to have a computer or high-speed Wi-Fi, a printer, a camera to be able to communicate with each other. Many of them do, but we've never required that. And so we will try to get some devices out to kids. There's no doubt about that. But, don't think that they're obligated because some of them won't ever have this stuff.
Yeah, their only device may be the cell phone that goes with mom or dad to work. So again, they may be sharing that technology
Yeah,
throughout their entire
you have a
household.
house of 4 kids, and they're all school age, and you got mom and dad trying to work off of the device. They may only have that one device. So again, they're going to worry less about their schoolwork, and this is the time where you do make things more asynchronous so that they can access things when the devices are available to them.
Again, it'll be messy, but keep calm and you'll be able to work through it.
You're right, Dan. It will be messy. You're going to learn as you go, just like your students are going to learn as they go. You are not going to be the sage on the stage at this point. You all are learning together. One of the teachers in our district, Mr. Savidra from Sage, commented, he realized that he's not the only teacher experiencing this. And that's a big deal.
It really is. I think there's still some teachers that feel like they're still on that island and not really sure where to turn. You're not the only one. So hang in there. Just remember, keep kind, be helpful to each other, especially calm with each other and our students and along with their families during this time, because it's difficult. It's not just about school.
I have said that they're going to remember you far more based upon how you treated them than any lesson you post online.
This will be the thing that they remember about this year's grade more than anything.
Treat everybody nice, kind, not only online, not only with your communications with parents, but even if you have to go to the grocery store.
And keep that social distancing.
Do you really need that much toilet paper? It's true. There's a lot of toilet paper jokes out there.
There is.
So if anything, we'd like for you to remember at this point, you are not who you were, but you are working on becoming who you will be. Thanks for joining in, and we will see you next podcast.
And we'll see you next week during our trainings.